News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris. President Trump is at the Supreme Court sitting in on birthright citizenship arguments in a first such appearance ever by a president. Protesters outside the Supreme Court, where justices are considering whether President Trump's order restricting birthright citizenship is constitutional. Solicitor General John Sauer argued the 14th Amendment's citizenship clause wasn't designed for children of people in the U.S. illegally.
For decades following the clause's adoption, commentators recognized that the children of temporary visitors are not citizens, and illegal aliens lack the legal capacity to establish domicile here.
But it appears the justices are skeptical of Trump's citizenship restrictions. A definitive ruling is expected by early summer. Sources tell Bloomberg SpaceX has filed confidentially for an initial public offering, bringing billionaire Elon Musk's company closer to delivering the biggest ever listing. The company submitted its draft IPO registration to the SEC and could seek a valuation in the IPO of more than $1.75 trillion. A listing for SpaceX would raise as much as $75 billion, and the company is considering a dual-class share structure in the IPO that would potentially give insiders like Musk extra voting power to dominate decision-making. President Trump says the U.S. will consider a ceasefire with Iran when the Strait of Hormuz is open. The president posting on social media that Iran has asked for a ceasefire. But Iran says no, the strait won't reopen based on Trump's, quote, absurd displays, and that the future of the Hormuz Strait will be decided by Iran and Oman. Still, Trump says the U.S. will be out of Iran, in his words, pretty quickly, adding that the U.S. will return to do what he called spot hits if necessary. President Trump is set to address the nation tonight. Reuters reports he'll spend time during tonight's televised address to criticize NATO for its perceived lack of support in the military operation. Trump told Reuters he's absolutely considering an attempt to withdraw the U.S. from NATO. The NATO Supreme Allied Commander, Pierre Vandier, argued that the alliance should overcome internal tensions together and needs to quickly adapt to shocks.
A crisis is when the tires of your car are flat. A shock is when you hit a tree. We are in a world where hitting trees now, it's a new normal. And I think for an alliance, it's a strong challenge to be able to adapt at a very high speed to these shocks.
Admiral Pierre Vandier spoke with Bloomberg's Jonathan Farrow and Lisa Abramowitz from Norfolk, Virginia. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer says no amount of pressure will change his mind about joining the war in the Gulf.
There's been a good deal of pressure on me to change my position in relation to joining the war, and I'm not going to change my position on the war. So whatever the pressure, whatever the noise, I'm the British Prime Minister and I have to act in our national interests.
Starmer says the UK must deepen its relationship with Europe as the U.S.-Israeli war with Iran threatens to derail economies across the continent and fracture the transatlantic alliance. Starmer spoke during a press conference at Downing Street in London. Sources tell Bloomberg Emirates Global Aluminum halted operations at its smelter after the site was hit by Iranian missiles and drones over the weekend. That sent shares of aluminum higher. Both Alcoa shares and Century Aluminum are more than 6% higher. Private sector employment increased by 62,000 jobs in March. Pay was up 4.5% year over year. ADP's numbers show overall hiring is steady, but job growth favors certain industries, including healthcare. In March, that was accompanied by a boost in pay gains for job changers. U.S. stocks rose as there was more optimism that the war in the Middle East may be nearing a conclusion, and that helped pull Brent briefly below $100 a barrel. Brent crude now down 2%, near $102 per barrel. WTI down more than 1%, near $100 per barrel. We do check markets for you all day long here at Bloomberg. The S&P 500 is up 1.1%, NASDAQ up 1.6%, the Dow up a little less than 1%, the Russell 2000 index up 1.6%, the 10-year Treasury yield at 4.3%, and the 2-year yield at 3.78%. Bitcoin is up less than 10%, near $69,000, and we're watching Nike shares now down 14%. Shares fell after the company gave a gloomy outlook for the coming year, with revenue expected to decline 2 to 4% in the current quarter. Nike CEO Elliott Hill expressed his frustration to staff during an all-hands meeting, saying that he's tired of talking about fixing the business, and he wants to inspire and drive growth and have fun. St. Louis Fed President Alberto Musalem says risks are rising to both inflation and employment, and officials should be ready to adjust interest rates in either direction, depending on how the economy evolves.
Policy is well positioned to address risks to both dual mandate objectives, and I expect the current setting of the policy rate will remain appropriate for some time.
Musalem says he supports the central bank's decisions to hold interest rates steady so far this year, with a base case of stable unemployment, economy growth close to potential, and underlying inflation declining toward 2% later this year. Fed Governor Michael Barr says the longer the Iran conflict continues, the greater the risk of an impact on both U.S. growth and inflation. Barr made the remarks at an event hosted by the National Fair Housing Alliance. The FDA has approved a new weight loss pill from Eli Lilly called Foundeo. Shares of Eli Lilly are more than 4% higher. That's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris, and this is Bloomberg.